Good morning, 5th grade. Today we are going to read chapter 29, and in our whole group lesson, we're going to practice some new figurative language. So let's just quickly review figurative language at the top of your quick write. This is a quote from chapter 27, what we read yesterday. It says, "That's when a black monster comes over the horizon, blown by the warm summer wind." What type of figurative language is this? How do you know? Well, we know, based on what we read yesterday in chapter 27, that Homer, the black monster, is referring to the hot air balloon. So Homer is comparing a black monster to the hot air balloon, and he's not using like or as. So this is a metaphor. Silently write this down for number 1. This phrase is a metaphor because Homer compares a black monster to the hot air balloon. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for number 2. What is the author trying to communicate? The author is trying to communicate that the hot air balloon looks very scary. Silently write down your answer, and then we have our focus question for today. How does the author's use of figurative language affect the reader's understanding of the plot? We're going to talk about that in our whole group lesson, and then you're going to break out and work on examples of figurative language and make posters to share out. We're going to go over the vocabulary section in the whole group. So you can skip number 2 for now. And then we're going to listen to part of chapter 29. That way our whole group lesson will go a little faster. We can just focus on the figurative language when we get to whole group, and we won't have to focus on what happened, because right now that's what you're going to focus on right now. So we're using our CSPS strategy to keep track of our thinking while we read the first part of chapter 29. So open your book to chapter 29, Like a Bird with a Broken Wing. That title is a hint that there's going to be a lot of figurative language. Even the title is part of a simile. All right, and I want you to follow along as I read out loud. Remember, we're collecting evidence for who is Homer, what is he like, where is Homer, how did he get there, what is Homer's problem, and how does he try to solve it. I'm at until. Until that fateful balloon ride, the highest I'd ever been was to the peak of Squint's hay barn. I was 5 or 6 years old, and somehow got it in mind to see the world, or maybe to catch one of the pigeons that hopped along the ridge. Truth is, I don't recall exactly what was in my head at the time. All I remember is Harold in the yard below pleading for me to come down, and how it amused me to hear him begging. It was a mean thing, wanting to scare my big brother, who had always been so kind to me, but it felt good too, like I enjoyed testing how much he loved me. Eventually I came down on my own, none of the worse for wear, and Harold swore if I ever did such a thing again, climbed the rickety old roof like a monkey, he'd kill me with his own hands. But I knew he didn't mean it, and that made me feel good too. So Homer opens up, the chapter with a memory of the highest place he's ever been. And so when we're thinking about Homer, we could say, Homer remembers the time when he climbed to the top of the barn and Harold begged him to come down. Silently write that for character. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready for the setting. So now I'm at I mention. And remember, we're looking out for where is Homer and how did he get there. I mention this because I scampered into the balloon with nothing in my head but the desire to get away, and no idea what it meant to cut the anchor line. I wasn't thinking about how you get down again, that's for sure. So we'll stop right here. We just learned that Harold is inside the hot air balloon and he cut the anchor line, which means now he's floating in the air in the hot air balloon. So for setting, you need to write Homer climbed into the hot air balloon and cut the anchor line. Now he is flying in the hot air balloon. Press pause to write down your answer and play when you're ready to move on. Now I'm at without, so now we're looking for Harold's problem. Without the weight of the anchor, the balloon shoots straight up into the sky, rising so fast it leaves my stomach back there in the elm tree. It's like being on a rocket without sparkles. By the time I dare peek over the side of the basket, the ground is already falling away. Professor Fleabottom and the others are no bigger than tiny little ants and getting smaller. I'm heading up to heaven with no way back. All of a sudden, the wind howls like a shrieking bird, making the balloon sway violently. The basket thrashes up, down, and sideways. 1 second, I'm screaming into the wind directly under the balloon, and the next, I'm looking straight down at the ground, clinging to the basket with all my fingers and every last toe. I hang on for dear life. A giant balloon named Tilda wants to cough me out like a fur ball from a sick cat. About the time my heart is fixing to stop, the basket swings back under the balloon and holds steady more or less. Gives me a chance to catch my breath in the thin air and to realize that not all the shivering comes from being afraid. The closer you get to heaven, the colder it gets. So Harold's problem is that now he's trapped in the hot air balloon and he does not know how to get down. He's trapped in the hot air balloon. He does not know how to get down, and he is very scared. Press pause to write down your answer and play to find out how he tries to solve his problem. I'm at with things. Right here. With things. With things settled down for the time being, I search around the bottom of the basket looking for something useful. The kitchen knife has fallen away. But lashed to the framework of the basket is a canteen of water and a packet of hardtack biscuits. Not that I'm hungry. You need a stomach to be hungry, and mine got left behind. After a while, 100 years or so, I find the courage to peek over the side. Big mistake. This high up, you can't see people or animals, and the cornfields look like ragged green patches of old green quilt. On a big old quilt. Train tracks are little stitches on the ground, mending the world together. Beyond the forests and the fields and villages that look like toys and the snaky silver rivers glinting in the sun, the great curved edge of the earth bends into the sky. That's where heaven and earth must meet in the haze of blue mist at the far end of the world. Okay, and we're going to stop right there. And so when we're thinking about how Harold tries to solve his problem, there really isn't a solution right now. Basically, Harold has discovered that there is food and water in the hot air balloon, and when he looks over the side, he realizes he is higher up than he thought. So Homer discovers food and water in the hot air balloon, and he realizes he's higher up than he thought. Silently write down your answer for the solution, and then I want you to really think about what kind of person is Homer. He jumps into the hot air balloon. He doesn't know how to get out. What inferences can you make about Homer based on his actions in chapter 29? You have plenty of time to start your paragraph. Go ahead and get started.